So the Lakers are rolling, and I think it's becoming more and more clear that they may just be one or two moves away. So I think it's time we update some of our trade hypothetical packages using the 2031 first round pick. This is Jonathan Hernandez of the Lakers Legacy Podcast, and today I've got 4 hypothetical trade packages for you to nibble on using expirings and the 2031 first round pick. And make sure to pay attention to the logistics of each trade because they do check out financially on SpoTrack, which is the trade machine that I use. And there are some names in here and some configurations in here that I don't think you guys will expect. So make sure to stick around to the very end. But before we dive into all of those trade hypotheticals, if I could please ask you guys to like this video, comment down below, and most importantly, please hit subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you guys for getting me to 5K subs. What a milestone and what a journey it's been, a very rewarding journey. I don't take any single one of you subscribers for granted, but yes, please continue to spread the good word. So if you appreciate my insight, please continue to tell your friends about these videos, share these videos, and most importantly, if you haven't already, please subscribe. All right, with that out of the way, let's jump right into my 4 hypothetical trade scenarios involving the Lakers' 2031 first round pick. And let's start with the most obvious trade package because I know this guy is gaining buzz once again. And I think now more than ever, it makes the most sense for the Lakers to potentially pull the trigger. So let's talk about Herb Jones. So Herb Jones would probably be the best, I don't know if he's available, but the best ideal 3-and-D wing on the market that I feel like we could pair next to Luka, who is also on Luka, Austin Reeves, Jake LaRavia's timeline. Because Herb Jones is still just 27 years old. But before I get into Herb specifics, let me really quickly break down this actual trade package. So in this scenario, I think it's going to shock some Lakers fans, but here we go. The Lakers are going to send out Maxi Kleber's expiring $11 million. They're also going to send out Dalton Connect. They are going to trade their 2031 first round pick, probably unprotected, just to entice the New Orleans Pelicans to even pick up the phone. They're also going to give the Pelicans a 2028 first round pick swap. But on top of that, here's the wheel greaser. The Pelicans are going to want a Thiero. Now, I know, crazy. What are we thinking? This is our explosive demon that we've been waiting for. I know. I love a Thiero as well. But if it came down to clinching a deal with the Pelicans and it came down to a Thiero being the final piece that would get that across the finish line, I'm sorry, but I'm putting a in that package for Herb Jones. I know a lot of you probably think that's crazy, but here's the reality of it. Adu Thiero has had a history of knee injuries, and he's clearly still dealing with that injury now because we haven't yet seen him play basketball, even though I know he's very close, and I know he's younger. He's got a lot of potential. Of course. But if we're going to get a Herb Jones in his prime, 27 years old, and we're thinking about Luka winning a championship in the next 1 or 2 years, I think you got to pull the trigger. And I think this is a deal that would maybe, look, I'm not saying this is likely, and it's going to take a lot to get the Pelicans to trade Herb Jones because they have him on a very good cost control deal for the next 5 years. So the next year, Herb Jones is only making $13.9 million. Next year, he's only making $14.8 million. And then after that, his extension kicks in where he'll be making around $20 million per year till the 2029-2030 season, when he'll be making $24 million and will still be only 31 years old. And with the cap continually rising, $24 million is nothing. The full mid-level exception this past season was $15 million. In 3 years, that's going to be $18 million. So if you can still have Herb Jones on a $24 million contract in 2029, 2030, that'll probably be a bargain of a deal. So I say all that to say, I think it's going to take a lot to pry Nickeil Alexander. Sorry. I think it's going to take a lot. So I say all that to say, I think it's going to take a lot to pry Herb Jones away from the Pelicans. And I'm not even sure if the 2030 first round pick is going to do it. So with that said, we kind of have to entice them a little bit more, add Dalton Connect if they see some potential in him in terms of shooting. And add a young prospect with upside like a Adu Thiero. So if the Pelicans would be willing to make this type of deal, I would do it because Herb Jones, again, is the prototypical 3-and-D shooting guard small forward to pair next to Luka Doncic, but also to pair next to Austin Reeves. This dude is an elite all defense type of player. He has relentless motor. He has amazing defensive fundamentals, crazy hands, crazy feet. Again, just 27 years old, and he's becoming an improved three-point shooter as well. This season, in only like 8 or 9 games, he's averaging 10 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 1.3 steals, almost a block a game, 45% from 3, hitting 1.9 threes a game this season. And so if you can just get that, get the point of attack DFS version in the shooting guard small forward spot in his prime, who can actually knock down an open 3, I don't know, man. I think the Lakers have to do it. And on top of that, Herb Jones is long and explosive. And yeah, I know I'm preaching to the choir here, and this isn't going to come as too much of a surprise, but I'm just hammering the point home. If there was ever a time to go like all in on Herb Jones, it's now. Prior to this season, I thought that maybe we'd have to include Austin Reeves, but you know what? I don't think so. The Pelicans are on a downward trajectory. I don't think they've won a game yet. Zion Williamson is already out and missing games once again. They may just want to hit the reset button entirely, and we can give them a 2031 first-round pick unprotected. We can give them a pick swap. We can give them a Adu Thiero to build around. I know that one hurts, but I would do it for Herb Jones. All right, so there is my first trade package with all those 3 players going out, all currently players who aren't part of the Lakers' current rotation outside of Dalton Connect for spurts here and there. And yeah, if we can just bring in Herb Jones and add him to the team that we already have to infuse this team with even more motor, we got to do it. All right, let's move on to my second trade package, and let's talk about Quentin Grimes. So this deal is going to involve several players, so let me just run through the deal really quickly. It's a 3-team deal because we're going to need to move some salary around, and the Sixers and the Lakers are above the first apron, so they have to match salaries a little bit more closer. So here's the deal. Lakers are going to send out Maxi Kleber, Dalton Connect, Gabe Vincent, and the 2031 first-round pick unprotected. We've got Maxi Kleber and Dalton Connect going to the Nets. We are attaching Dalton Connect and pretty much salary dumping Maxi Kleber, opening up a roster spot on our end. The Philadelphia 76ers would also send a second-round pick to the Nets because in any multi-team trade, each team sort of needs to touch each other and send something going out. And so the Nets will get Maxi Kleber, Dalton Connect, and a second-round pick from the Philadelphia 76ers. The Sixers will acquire Haywood Highsmith, which he's injured. He may get bought out, whatever. Haywood Highsmith and Gabe Vincent. And they would also get the Lakers' 2031 first-round pick. Let's say because Quentin Grimes is expiring, let's say we can top 8 protect that. But essentially, the Sixers get a top 8 protected 2031 first-round pick and a flyer on Haywood Highsmith and Gabe Vincent if they're still actively competing. And they make sure they get something for an expiring Quentin Grimes who was mad about their negotiations this past summer. And in return, the Lakers are going to get, because they are giving up a hefty price for an expiring player, for the rights to sign Quentin Grimes this summer to a $25 million contract. Because the Lakers are giving up so much, they are going to get Quentin Grimes, who's on an expiring $8 million contract. They're also going to get Kelly Oubre, who's also expiring, I believe, $8 million as well. And then they're going to get a flyer on Adem Bona. Maybe the Sixers don't agree to this. Maybe we can't get Adem Bona in the deal. But considering we are giving them our 2031 first, I feel like we should receive some sort of multi-year contract, some sort of young player on a multi-year deal, because again, that's a hefty price. An unprotected first-round pick or even a protected first-round pick in 2031 for the rights to sign a guy that's probably going to leave the Sixers anyways this summer. I think they have to give us something back. And so that's why I'm including Adem Bona. But Quentin Grimes, okay. So I know I mentioned that Herb Jones is like the perfect 3-and-D sort of guy next to Luka. And Austin, I feel like Quentin Grimes is just a tier below that or just a small rung below that. And if we're taking into account his full offensive versatility in game, he's the better player overall than Herb Jones. If you're looking for an all-world defender, Herb Jones clears Quentin Grimes for sure. But Quentin Grimes is even younger than Herb Jones. He's still only 25 years old. This season, he's averaging 18 points, 4.3 rebounds, 4.8 assists on 46% from the field, 38% from three, knocking down 2.5 threes a game. And this is coming off of the bench. Last year with the Sixers, through 28 games towards the end of the season, he averaged 22 points, 5 rebounds, 4.5 assists, knocking down 2.9 threes a game. That stretch is why he was asking the Sixers for at least $20 million a year. And if I were the Lakers, I would give him that this upcoming summer, but I would obviously trade for him now to get him in our building. And so Quentin Grimes, as we all know, he's proven that he can work with Luka Doncic. He was on the Mavericks with Luka and was that ideal 3-and-D wing because he can not only three, he can not only solidly D, but he can do stuff with the ball as well in a pinch. Again, he's averaged like 4 to 5 assists in the last 2 seasons. And then on top of that, he's really explosive, actually. Imagine Quentin Grimes, I almost describe as if you could put Max Christie and Austin Reeves into the same player, but he's not as good as Austin Reeves, but also, actually, I don't know. He might be as good as Austin Reeves in certain respects. And he's maybe not as good defensively as Max Christie, but he's a rung below. So think of Quentin Grimes as like, what if you could fuse Austin Reeves and Max Christie into one player, except Quentin Grimes is the vastly superior volume 3-point shooter. Maybe not vastly because Austin has improved. All that to say, I feel like Quentin Grimes would be a near perfect fit right outside of Herb Jones next to Luka Doncic. And again, even though he's expiring and even though we'd be paying for the rights to re-sign him this upcoming summer to like a new $25 million deal, maybe that's queasy for some folks to pay him that much, but I honestly would, having watched enough of his game. Yeah, Quentin Grimes, I would give up the 2031 first if we're also getting back Kelly Oubre and a guy like Adem Bona, who's only 22 years old, hails from UCLA. Adem Bona is like a small ball 5, but he is one of these burly, super athletic and explosive big man who can run up and down the court like crazy. He's got tremendous upside. He's a little bit Zion Williamson-esque in terms of how explosive he is, how fluidly he runs the floor. He also reminds me a little bit of Day'Ron Sharpe. And so I see a lot of potential in Adem Bona as well. And so if you're telling me we can get Quentin Grimes, who we're going to plan to re-sign this summer, it's going to cost us money, but we plan to re-sign him. And then we also get another wing, 6'9" wing, albeit erratic, in Kelly Oubre. And then Adem Bona on top of that. These are high motor guys who are also versatile on both ends of the floor. And Kelly Oubre, kind of like DeAndre Ayton, if he's in a competitive winning situation, that dude can lock in and scrap and hustle. And then on any given night, he can also put up 28 points if he gets hot. And so this is a package and this is a deal that I would be very enticed by. And I would be willing to give up the 2031 first. And the benefits of the Lakers doing this and sending out Gabe Vincent, Maxi Kleber, Dalton Connect, I guess we wouldn't open up a roster spot here if we're getting back Quentin, Kelly Oubre, and Adem. So scratch that thought. We don't open up a roster spot, but you know what? That's okay. I would rather have Quentin, Kelly, and Adem Bona than Gabe Vincent, Maxi Kleber, Dalton Connect. So yeah, so that is trade package number 2. Let me know what you guys think about that. Before I get into my last 2 trade packages, which you definitely want to stick around for, let's first talk about today's sponsor. And let's talk about Underdog Fantasy, because fast breaks, buzzer beaters, and block parties are back. And Underdog is the best place to get in on all the action. Playing on Underdog is easy. Just pick whether your favorite players will go higher or lower on stats like points, rebounds, steals, and more. This week on Underdog, I am looking at whatever Luka's points prop is for tomorrow's game against Atlanta. The lines haven't come out yet, but if Luka's prop is sitting at 32.5 points, take the higher. He's been shooting horribly recently, and I know he's hitting his head or he's getting on himself for that. And I think he's going to turn it around on Saturday versus the Hawks. If his 3-pointers made prop is at 3.5 and even 3, I would definitely take the higher because he has been struggling with his 3-point shot as well. And it's only a matter of time before he starts training them. So what are you waiting for? Jump on the Luka efficiency bounce back bandwagon and give his props a try. Use the free promo dollars Underdog currently gives you and let me know how you do. So download the app today and use promo code LEGACY to score $100 in bonus funds or bonus entries when you play your first $5. That's promo code LEGACY. Underdog. Make picks, win money. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. All right, let's pitch to a couple more sponsors when we return. My last 2 trade hypothetical packages that I think would push the Lakers over the top. All right, so we are back. Let's get to trade number 3. You guys are not going to expect this one, and maybe for good reason, because it's probably, along with Herb Jones, the most pipe dreamy scenario, but it's something to think about if this person's team continues to go sideways this season. So number 3, let's talk about Nickeil Alexander-Walker. So in this scenario, the Lakers, this is an easier 1-to-1 team swap scenario. The Lakers would be giving up Gabe Vincent, Dalton Connect, and let's say a protected 2031 first. I guess it's okay if it's an unprotected 21-31st as well. I don't know if you guys think that's too rich. I haven't thought too hard about it, but I think at this point, I'd be willing to give up this first-round pick for Nickeil Alexander-Walker's potential. But to be safe and hedge, let's say this is also a top 8 2031 first-round pick for Nickeil Alexander-Walker to get the Atlanta Hawks to even bite. In return, the Lakers would get Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who is a prospect that they were monitoring closely this free agency. This was a guy that Lakers fans, myself included, very much wanted this season if we opened up the full mid-level exception. Obviously, we did, and we ended up splitting that up between DeAndre Ayton and Jake LaRavia. But if we had that full amount available and Nickeil Alexander-Walker had agreed to it, he would have been a great option to get in free agency as well. But anyways, I bring up his name because even though the Hawks had a really good offseason and they got that unprotected first from the New Orleans Pelicans, their situation and their future with Trae Young is very murky. And right now they're playing Nickeil Alexander-Walker at point guard. And I just don't think they can rack up enough wins to be relevant or competitive this season. And so if things continue to go south, would the Hawks essentially want to blow things up and start from scratch, kind of? Or if they do plan to re-sign Trae Young, that's going to be a very expensive venture. And maybe they do want to clear their books, even though I know they just signed Nickeil Alexander-Walker. So Nickeil Alexander-Walker, he's 27 years old, kind of like Herb Jones, a little bit of an older prospect, but 27 years old, you are in your prime. In his new contract with the Hawks, he signed on for about $15 million a year till the 2028-29 season, when he'll be 30 years old and making $15.9 million. And I think that deal is also a little bit of a steal. Now, it's very early on in this season, but currently, Nickeil Alexander-Walker is averaging 17 points, 2.6 rebounds, 3.3 assists, 1.1 steals, and nearly a block a game, 0.9. Now, he's only shooting 30% from 3, but that's okay because he's proven that in a tertiary role, like with the Minnesota Timberwolves, that he can shoot the three ball. I mean, he shot 38 and 39% from three with the Wolves the prior 2 seasons. I think he's probably, with more of the usage, probably taking a little bit more ill-advised off the dribble 3-point shots. That's probably lowering his percentage a bit. But all that to say, maybe Nickeil Alexander-Walker has more untapped potential than we thought. And I know that with Trae Young out, he's taken more of the usage, but 17 points, 3 assists, 3 rebounds, 1.1 steals, 0.9 blocks, and then taking into account everything we know about his defensive potential. Yeah, I mean, if the Hawks are willing to relinquish Nickeil Alexander-Walker, press the reset button a little bit, I would give them Dalton Connect, expiring contract, and give them the 2031 first to sort of rebuild around Zachary Risache. Who else did they have? Jalen Johnson. I forgot who else they got this past season in the draft. But anyways, I know they got another first-round pick. They've got Onyeka Okongwu. They probably want to clear Kristaps Porzingis off their books next year. He's going to be an unrestricted free agent. So a 2031 first would help that. Getting off of Nickeil Alexander's newly minted $15 million contract would help that. But again, I don't know. Maybe they really covet Nickeil Alexander-Walker, hence why they're probably starting him and giving him this shot. This is more of a big what if, you know? So if the Hawks are willing to relinquish Nickeil Alexander-Walker and take a 2031 first round pick, I think I'd be willing to give that up along with Dalton Connect and the expiring necessary to make that happen, because kind of like Herb Jones before him, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, 6'5", with the length that he has, the long wingspan, and his ability to defend at the point of attack and be such a harasser, he would also be an ideal 3-and-D wing or 3-and-D shooting guard next to Austin Reeves or next to Luka Doncic, and you'd be getting him in his prime right now at 27 years old. So I don't think I need to sell you guys too much on this, but yeah, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, if he becomes available at some point, that's a guy I'd be willing to trade the 2031 first round pick for. All right, let's move on to my last trade hypothetical. This one is a little bit more of a hipster package, and I don't know how people are going to feel, but this personally is one of my more out of the box, but realistic and favorite angles. So with that said, let's talk about Day'Ron Sharpe and Zaire Williams out of the Brooklyn Nets. So in this deal, the Lakers would be giving up Gabe Vincent, Maxi Kleber, Dalton Connect, and a protected 2031 first. Before you freak out, it'll be top 8 protected at least. And I know people are queasy about trading a first for quote-unquote role players, but let me explain in a bit. But the Lakers in return would be getting Day'Ron Sharpe and Zaire Williams. Now, there's a scenario where we could include Haywood Highsmith. Sure, I don't think the Nets would have a problem with that, but I actually think Haywood Highsmith is going to get bought out eventually because he's been so injury-stricken this year. So if I'm the Lakers, I would wait till he gets bought out, and I just ask for Day'Ron Sharpe and Zaire Williams. But you know, if the Nets are willing to include Haywood Highsmith, sure, we can include Haywood Highsmith into this mix and hope that he's healthy enough to help us during the playoffs. But Day'Ron Sharpe and Zaire Williams, I believe, even though they're tertiary marginal players and not the big name player that fans are probably expecting us to trade for when considering we're giving up the 2031 first round pick, these guys, I feel like, round out our team so well and fit what we need. And I've actually come to this conclusion that I think right now, I would rather trade for Day'Ron Sharpe than Nick Claxton. And I'll explain why. First of all, Day'Ron Sharpe is only 24 years old. The Nets re-signed him to a 2-year, $6 million per year contract with a club option next year. That's a really good deal. And so he's essentially expiring, and the Lakers can choose to, opt out of his contract next year if they want to. But since it's only $6 million and so cheap, I don't know why they would. But Day'Ron Sharpe, he's almost in this like Isaiah Stewart, bully ball, athletic and disruptive, high motor, small ball 5 type that I have grown to love. And given what we've seen from DeAndre Ayton, I feel like Day'Ron Sharpe would complement DeAndre in the high motor aspect more than a guy like Nick Claxton would, because while Nick Claxton is the more vertical lob threat, the more proficient shot blocker, he's also kind of just frail thin. And I want something different for the Lakers. I want an enforcer in the paint who can move bodies, and that's Daron Sharp. This season, in just 16 minutes, he's averaging 6.3 points, 5.4 rebounds. That's not going to blow people away. But Daron Sharp has always been more of a points per minute, stats per minute sort of guy because per 36 wise, those numbers that I just rattled off, he's averaging 14 points, 12 rebounds, and 3 assists. This guy is a versatile small ball five. He's shown the ability, or at least has explored his ability to shoot 3-pointers in the last 2 seasons. He is a very good passer for a big man. He sets mountainous screens and erases people completely. He's a sneakily good lob threat who can actually sky in the air given how bulky he is. And this season, along with DeAndre Ayton, ironically enough, Daron Sharp is like top 2 or top 3 in rim protection. Not Nick Claxton, Daron Sharp. And overall, I just love his high motor, how grimy and gritty he is in the paint. He's got a nasty mean streak to him. And again, as opposed to Nick Claxton, I think he's obviously bulkier, but he's got a higher motor and he's more offensively versatile. So I'm willing to sort of bank on Daron Sharp's upside because he is still only 24 years old. And I think he provides that type of high motor, enforcer, bruising, bully ball mentality that I think this team could continually use and pump up more of. And also, Daron Sharp is an AMR agency guy, same agency as Austin Reeves and Jake LaRavia. So there's that. And then Zaire Williams, I've talked about him a lot over the last year. He was a trade target of mine last season, and I also wanted the Lakers to give him a portion of their mid-level this season in free agency. We got Jake LaRavia instead. Still a good move. But if we can also include Zaire Williams, who's still only 24 years old, 6'9" with a 7'1" wingspan. He's on the same deal as Daron Sharp, 2 years, $6 million per year, club option next year. Very nice, flexible deal. Last year, he averaged 10 points. This year, he's averaging 10 points again off the bench, 1 steal. He has continually improved as a three-point shooter year after year. He's knocking down 2 threes a game this year on a very healthy 36% from 3. And what I love most about Zaire Williams, kind of like Nickeil Alexander-Walker, is he's a rabid point of attack defender who really knows how to leverage his size and length to bother defenders. If you've seen any of my breakdown videos on Zaire Williams, I've mentioned that he kind of reminds me of Cam Reddish a little bit, but I view him more as like the next Nickeil Alexander-Walker. So this low-key might be one of my favorite trades, even though giving up the 2031 first may seem rich. Again, we'll protect it to cover all of our bases, but these are 2 guys who are still only 24 years old, who I believe in their upside. And more importantly, even though they're not stars, I think they fit very well with the overall core of this team and will continue to strengthen the Lakers' depth, but also their grittiness, their defensive capabilities, and also some of their offensive versatility as well with regards to what Daron Sharp can do as a 5-out big who can pass, screen the ball, and also roll to the rim and kind of stretch the floor as well. Right now, he has proven himself to be a better floor spacer than DeAndre Ayton and Jackson Hayes by sheer virtue of the fact that he's been taking more of those attempts and reps. So yeah, that'll do it for my 4 updated trade hypothetical packages that I think would push the Lakers over the edge right now after what we've seen through about 10 games or so. All of these trades, my position has changed a little bit where I was a little bit more tight strung about giving up the 2031 first, but seeing how this team has sort of round into form and how complementary all the pieces are and just the drive, focus, and intensity that all of these guys have, I just want to bring in more of those types of guys. And I think the players that I laid out today all kind of fit that mold of high motor dudes. They've got good defensive potential. Some of them are extremely athletic, and they all fit the Lakers' current timeline with regards to the main core of Luka Doncic, Austin Reeves, Jake LaRavia, Rui Hachimura, all of these mid-20-year-old guys who also still have upside and we can continue to build with towards the future. So let me know what you guys think about these trade packages, if you would tweak anything. Again, a lot of these are if the other team would do them. I'm not saying these are necessarily realistic, but these are more things to think about, you know? Especially as the season progresses, we don't know where either of these teams will be by the trade deadline. And I forgot to mention that some of these deals actually can't happen till December 15th or January 15th when some of these guys become trade eligible. So we're going to have to wait anyways. But for now, seeing how this team has looked, I'm ready to give up the 2031 first. And I would give it up for these players more than I would a guy like Andrew Wiggins, who's already 30 years old, and Rui Hachimura kind of does the things that he does. I would continue to just build out the edges without having to trade someone who's currently in our rotation. So that's the beauty of these deals. I'm trading away all of the guys who aren't currently staple pieces to our team and currently playing outside of maybe Dalton Connect. And all we have to give up is the 2031 first. And I feel like any of these deals would make us even better and may be the needle mover that pushes us into real championship contention for the playoffs this upcoming year. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video, and most importantly, please hit subscribe. Once again, thank you for 5K. Let's get to 10K next. This has been Jonathan Hernandez of the Lakers Legacy Podcast, and I will catch you guys next time. Peace.